I recently did a podcast episode with my dad, and the thing that surprised me the most, I didn't expect him to be honest. What's up, guys? You are now in the Chop Shop, and my name is Benny. On this episode, I invite my brother Eli back into the Chop Shop, and we react to the podcast episode I did with my dad. We look at some clips, react, kind of talk about what it was like being in the room, hearing some of his answers, and actually giving a little bit more context to his answers too, sharing his story about with his parents, his relationship with us, his relationship with our mom. It's a great episode where we just keep unpacking this man, my father, and his story. Check it out. So check out this, I was on Instagram. Yep. And I found this thing. It's really interesting. So it's kind of long, but I think you'll get the gist. It says, back in 1982, a whopping 43% of dads admitted to steering clear of diaper duty. Fast forward to today, and that number has nosedived to a mere 3%. Research suggests that dads deeply engaging in the daily routines of dressing, diapering, and bathing not only fosters a robust bond with the little ones, but also extends its positive impact through the child's growth. So obviously, the more involved dad is, the better off the child is, of course. But moreover, recent studies highlight that unwavering commitment of millennial fathers to reshaping traditional parenting roles. A 2017 survey uncovered that modern dads allocate an additional 30 minutes per day to household chores compared to their predecessors. This generation is not just breaking stereotypes, they're investing more quality time in parenting than ever before. And this is research done by the University of Warwick. So, I found that really interesting. I think if there's one thing that like millennials, and we'll just talk a little bit about millennials for a second because we're millennials.
Yeah, makes sense.
Is how much we don't do, or how much we lack in drive, in being hard-nosed, hardworking, all the millennial stereotypes. I think
Facts.
There's more bad things than good things that people talk about millennials. But a lot of it has to it's on this like notion that they're lazy.
Right.
They had it all done for them. And so, but then you have this, this study done by a university that actually says, millennial dads are actually stepping up at home, doing more daily chores than the generation before. And again, it said back in 1982, 43% dads said that they wouldn't do diaper changing. And now they've done that same study and it's down to 3%. I find that like interesting that millennial dads, even having the what's the word I'm looking for? They have the reputation of being a lazy generation. We have the reputation of being a lazy generation that doesn't want to work hard, but yet millennial dads are killing it. Like they're more involved at home. They're more involved in not just being there, but diaper changing and dressing, like doing all the chores that need to be done at the house.
Yeah.
In fact, like we had to push back the beginning of this episode because I had to help out at home, but I couldn't just bounce at the time I wanted to. So I don't know, anything like stick out to you? Like for me, I just found that to be like really awesome.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a multi-layer to this, like any argument, right? Like we like to think, and to fact as well, people aren't a monolith, right? There's not like one specific thing for everything, and I think as generations progress, you start to see shifting values, right?
Yeah,
and so that doesn't surprise me at all. I mean, because. Yeah, it doesn't surprise me at all because I feel there was a really big cultural shift that kind of happened during millennial lifetime or generation span. One thing to take into note is I always think of these things in generations as far as like the technological advances, right? So like when we think of like families in like the 50s, like, oh, cool. The reason that we are seen as like entitled or given everything is like, well, you have the internet and you have this. In the 50s, if you had, a washing machine,
that's true.
That was like, whoa, you have a washing machine kind of thing. Like you have like a dryer. You're not just like hanging on the clothespins. Yeah. Like you have a car. You know, that was like a big advance to that. And, you know, I'm sure that, you know, people in the, you know, 1910s, 1900s saw those in the 50s as entitled or that kind of thing.
Yeah.
But one thing to note is that between the 80s and up until now, technology has advanced so quickly.
Yeah.
Like if you really think about how far we've come technology-wise from the 80s until now, even the 70s until now, and then think of all of human history behind that, right? Is pretty wild. But it doesn't surprise me at all because, you know, I think especially what a lot of millennials will kind of ring true to them is that you know, their parents were always working. There was kind of that shift from the traditional mom stays at home and, you know, dad works into now dual parents working. So there's no one there. And there's this feeling of, you know, unfortunately, a feeling of abandonment, right? Where there's just like, there isn't as much interaction. Mom and dad are both working. I'm at school. You're on to the next thing. And there's this longing to want to do better.
Yeah.
Now, granted, what we do better at is what we perceive as, you know, like, you know, what we perceive as like important to us and what our deals are. But in those shifting as well, there are other things that we also lack in doing. So, it's really, I mean, I could talk about this for a long time. I won't.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's just always so interesting. Like I always try to have the point of view of like, you read stuff like that and you're like, cool, like millennial dads are killing it. But I always want to be cognitive of like, okay, great, we're killing it here. Where are we not killing it?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like what are the things we had to sacrifice in doing this that, you know, we're missing out on other points. So,
yeah, I mean, you know, I think like one of the things that kind of drives me nuts about social media is like, and I've talked about this before on the podcast, you know, these trends that happen on social media where it takes an isolated issue and makes it seem like it's like an epidemic.
You know
what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, because there are some dads out there that struggle with giving their kids attention, it's everywhere now, you know, because of how social media just kind of promotes these trends, that when it gets a hold of a trend that's not like 100% true or 100% real, it just makes it seem like that's the case all the time, you know? So I'm saying that to say like one of the bigger trends on social media is fathers not being present. There's this one trend where it's like this content creator does a routine, and it shows the two different outcomes, whether he's engaged or not engaged. Mm-hmm. You know, and it's painting the story. And I'm not saying it's, you know, wrong or bad. Like, okay, yeah, sure, we need to be, you know, give our children attention, give our families attention, but just the idea of like, you know, hey, this is happening everywhere. Like, there are a whole lot of dads doing this. Like, I feel like it's like, all right, come on, like. No, like, do I have days like that? Sure. Is it every day? No. So, like, is it really something that is, or like you said, or are there other areas that are even more urgent that we're overlooking?
Right.
So, but I mean, something like this, like, it's like encouraging, you know, it's positive. It's, if anything, if you're a millennial dad, it's like, okay, so it isn't like all bad out there. You know, there's some good things happening. And I think that that's the thing that we need to like also hang on to, is not just the things that are bad news, but the things that are good news. And I just thought this was a really cool, and again, given the reputation that millennials have, like, I just thought this is pushing against that.
Most definitely. And, you know, I think if there's anything to invest in, relationship is a great thing to invest in, right? It's the only thing that we're going to take with us to heaven, right? Are those that we impacted, those that we encouraged, those that we've you know, led, and especially those that we fathered, right?
Sure.
Those that we take, those are the things that are going to carry us in the same way Jesus, you know, store your treasures up in heaven,
right,
where no moth or flame can get to, right? And so anytime, you know, that we can do that and we can do it generously, I think is going to be better.
Yeah.
Sure.
So now let's shift to, I had a conversation with Dad on the podcast. Last episode, it was It was really great.
Yeah.
He was super nervous, dude.
As were you.
And I was too. It's funny. I was telling you afterwards, and I'll admit it on here too. Like towards the end, like I kind of got caught. I was nervous, obviously going in because like I'm interviewing or like I'm talking to my dad.
Yeah.
And we'll kind of get into that a little bit, but like I was just so nervous that it's like I ran out of questions, and I'm like, but I didn't run out of questions. I had a lot of questions in my mind. I'm just like, I have no idea where to go. So I'm glad that you were there because you were able to feed questions. Because I'm like, good, dude, because I'm like stuck right now. But
well, if you think about it, and I'm sure we'll speak more to this. That's probably the longest conversation, a single conversation that we've had with Dad.
I would say it's the longest conversation that. Yes, it was the longest conversation between. Yeah, like it
Yes.
wasn't a family discussion.
Right.
It wasn't like it was a one-on-one or intimate setting or just the three of us in the room. I mean, yeah, it's the longest one that I've remember had, and like you said, in a long time.
Maybe ever.
Maybe
ever.
I don't know. I'd have to look and see. I mean, dude, for the first 15, 20 seconds, he didn't say a word. So,
yeah.
I mean, that just goes to show you like how uncomfortable Dad is with talking.
Right.
It isn't that he doesn't want to say anything or that he doesn't have anything to say.
Right.
He's just a man that's very reserved. And I think Dad has always kind of gone about it in like, I just want to be respectful. I don't want my opinions or thoughts to offend anybody.
Yeah.
I think Dad's very considerate of other people, especially first-time people that he's around. He's very to himself because he doesn't want to disrupt anything. He's not a disruptor. He's a calm presence that just wants to make everybody feel comfortable.
Right.
So he doesn't want to disrupt anything. But anyway, again, great. It was an awesome, guys. If you haven't seen the episode, like you need to check it out. I wanted to like look at some clips and kind of get your react. I mean, you were in the room, and so
I was playing the dad role. I didn't want to disrupt.
Yeah. Honestly, like watching back the episode, and then obviously the way that where I kind of froze up and you helped me out. I wish that you would have had a microphone because I thought that would have been it just would have been good. Like it would have, it might have made him feel a little bit more comfortable and not feel like, oh, Eli's not supposed to be here or something type of thing, But I'll just ask you right off the bat before we get into the clips. Like, was there anything that kind of stuck out to you about was there something that you just haven't stopped thinking about from that conversation?
One of the questions it was one of the questions I asked. I don't think we got here in this video, but was really important to me was what was life like after losing his parents?
Yeah. We do get into one of them.
Yeah. And I think now that I'm getting older.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, I know me and you, we talk about this all the time.
Yeah.
All the people we used to look up at church, like when we were kids, we're their age now.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like we're only getting older and it's only happening faster.
Yeah.
And as we grow older, it's coming to terms with my parents are going to be around forever.
Yeah.
Kind of thing. And, what kind of relationship do I want to have with them? How do I want, to remember them?
Yeah.
And it sounds a bit morbid, but like it is, it's like, it's almost preparing my heart for that day so that, I know when it came, like I knew that I knew my dad well, my dad knew me well.
Yeah.
And that I can carry on the stories and the legacy, we didn't talk about it, before, but that weekend before.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. That weekend before.
Yeah.
I got invited to do this event, over in Sebastopol, just a town, just about, 15, 20 minutes from here. And, the reason they invited us to come is because this was the first gathering of Hispanic, Christians, basically in Sonoma County. where my grandfather came and preached, here, coming from Sacramento. And then from that started the first non-Catholic Hispanic church in Sonoma County.
Do you remember the name of the guy who owned the schoolhouse?
Hearst. Yes.
Yeah. Okay. I'm just saying, if you know his name, to say it, because I mean, a lot of people might know who that is.
Yeah, the Hearst family, the Hearst Ranch out towards Pleasant Hill Community School, if you know it.
Yeah.
That's the building. If you haven't gone, I'd highly recommend.
Yeah.
Really cool history there. But what was really cool was that I got to go with my grandmother and my mom, and my uncle, who surprisingly came up.
That was really cool.
Who, that's where they went and preached. But that's where my dad was working, where he came to Christ.
Yeah.
And so the really cool thing was that, this was a place of stories, like it was. So to actually walk in the building, watch their eyes light up with all these memories just flooding them, and you would see it in real time, was just like such a powerful moment. Like, oh my goodness, I'm so glad we made time to come and do it. I'm sorry, Vinny, I missed your party. But
it's all right, Vinny will understand.
But yeah, it was a really cool moment. So, I got to have that weekend and then hear more of my dad's story.
Yeah.
So he got to share a little bit about what that was like and working out there, and, what the early church, was like there. But then to kind of come into this context now where he's talking about as fatherhood was a really cool connecting bridge. So.
Yeah. I think there was a couple things that I wish I would have asked. I would have asked, to tell me the story, how he got here. What did he have to do to get here?
I've heard that story.
I haven't from beginning to end. I haven't. I've heard snippets. I haven't heard the whole thing, because I think there's something to, and I mean, look, I mean, immigration today is a very controversial topic, and I for one, like, don't know how to approach that conversation, because, like, dude, my dad got here because
we wouldn't be here.
Because my dad came here illegally. He didn't come here legally, but my dad is also an American citizen now.
Very proud American
and very
citizen.
Proud American.
Yeah.
Very proud Mexican, but very proud American. So, like, that's a topic that I'm just like, man, I don't know how to even, like, I don't even know how I feel about it, Yeah. And this isn't about that, but again, I'm just saying, like, I mean, I wish I would have asked my dad to tell me that story, because I think that would have been really cool. I think let's get into some clips, because I want to get in and kind of, like, if you're watching this, if you're listening to this, you should be watching this, because we're literally going to be sitting here watching the clips. But it's okay. You're going to hear the audio. Unfortunately, you're going to hear my dad talk Spanish. So if you don't know Spanish, but I feel like me and my dad did pretty good as far as, like, I don't know. There maybe some people who don't know Spanish that well did fine. Although I did put, captions on the.
They won't be in this video.
Obviously, that's right. They won't be in this video. Right. Sorry. So you have to figure it out. But we're talking about it. We're reacting to it. So it'll be fine. So we'll be your translators. We'll try our best. Okay. So this first clip. So my dad is one of 13?
13.
He's one of 13. And for some of you, that's a shock. And trust me, this is a shock. I mean, I couldn't imagine having that many kids, bro.
Yeah, let's just say my bucket list does not hit 13
Let's just
kids.
say my grandparents didn't have a whole lot to do but work and eat, and that's the other thing. Yeah. So my dad was one of 13 kids. So one of the first questions I asked him was like, dude, so not dude, but dad, like your parents, how did they parent and raise 13 kids? And so he kind of shares a little bit of what that relationship was like.
Yeah, we'll watch the clip right here.
Yeah. Did they spend a lot of time with everybody? Did it seem like, they leaned on the older ones to help with the younger ones? Like, how did that?
No, ellos eran muy parejos con todos.
Yeah.
Cada quien se iba a su trabajo. Él se iba a sus milpas a trabajar.
Yeah.
Ella se quedaba a hacer tortillas, comida para todos.
Right.
So, bien enfocados en tener la familia lo que necesitaba, lo que podían darnos.
Right. And I'm sure you guys like would always get together to have dinner together, you know, and so you guys were always together
Sí.
for the most part.
Sí.
So again, I was like, well, I mean, they're a family of 15.
Right.
And living in a 2-bedroom house, and the rooms are not very big.
No.
They're very small. And I mean, he even shared how they slept on the floor, which again, I knew there were so many. I knew they slept in a house with a room of 2, but I'm like, okay, now just thinking about it, I'm like, that's crazy. I was sleeping on the floor.
Well, it's important to note by the time number 13 is rolling around, the firstborns, I believe 2 of them have already gone to the United States. So I don't think there was ever a point where all 15 were staying there, but still, I mean, it's a logistical problem. You know what I mean?
I think, even if it was the older 2, I mean, there's still 13 of them,
people.
still 11 siblings, right? So, but I do think it's interesting how, Dad said like that our grandparents just kind of like handled what they needed to handle. My grandpa would go to work and obviously make a living, and my grandmother would just stay home and focus on what needed to get done at the house.
Yeah, homemaking.
And again, I'm sure that as the older ones got older, they helped out for sure. Like my dad said in the interview that he was going out and working in the field at like 6 years old. So I mean, they didn't wait long to put those kids to do anything.
No, I mean, you have to look at this. I mean, again, it's hard for us in this modern American type. Now, again, if you're maybe in an Amish community or something along that, you're actually closer to what's going on. But family, everybody has their role and does their job. I remember when we went to Mexico, the second time we were older, we got to see a little bit of the aunts, right? Like some of them would put the clothes out on the line. Some of them were cooking dinner. Some of them were trimming, plants out in the garden. So everybody kind of had their role, had their chores for the day to get completed, and then came back. Yeah. So it wasn't like this typical, like, oh, everyone's just hanging out, at the house and just chilling and on their cell phones kind of thing. So everybody had their role, and to a certain degree as well. I mean, it's not as though they're, living in fat cash or anything like that. Yeah. So everybody has to go to work because otherwise everybody can't eat. Yeah. So, definitely a different lifestyle for sure. But not something uncommon to the area.
Dad's not a complainer at all. Dad doesn't complain. Especially when it comes to work, it almost seems like he enjoys the work. I mean, the guy's still working, and I'm not going to say his age, but my dad is still working. And like, when I say working, like he's still working.
He's working, yeah.
There's no like taking it easy for him.
Right.
And it's interesting, like seeing the way that they grew up. And I mean, I know a lot of my uncles and aunts, and they seem the very same way. They see the work that needs to be done, they go and do it, and you don't hear complaints. You don't hear, it's too much today, or it's been a long week, or you don't hear any of that. I mean, my dad will come home tired, and you can see he's tired, and he'll even say, ooh, it was a heavy day today. But he's not like, oh my gosh, I got to go again. Like, and just seeing that the way they were raised, it's like at a young age, it's like they kind of had to be that way, right, in order to help make the home work and make a living and eat and provide for the families. So
that's something to admire, honestly, because that is not a trait that I picked up at all.
Honestly, bro, I don't think it's one that I picked up either.
Yeah, I'm not handy. I
am. It's interesting that like obviously Dad like started working early, and when he came to the States, he picked up construction and started doing that, and it seemed that he picked it up pretty good. I mean. And none of that rubbed off on either of us.
Nope. Whenever something needed to get done, you'd call Dad, and that was it.
Now, I am going to mention my brother Zach, because he didn't get mentioned last week, and he texted me like, "Bro, I didn't get mentioned." All right,
that's true.
We're mentioning you this time.
Big Z.
He's handy. I mean, he's pretty good with tools. I mean, he seems to be the handy one out of us. But
I think it's because when Dad needed someone to work, he wasn't going to get it out of us.
That's true.
So
That's true.
Zach being the youngest.
By the time we were teenagers, we were already kind of doing our own thing. You know, we weren't just at home. We were in music or in sports or at church. So like, it's not like we were just hanging out at home all day. Right. Well, we were, but not always, you know? I mean, we were.
Yeah.
I mean, there were days that he'd be like, hey, can you guys help me? I'm like, oh, dude, come on. Like,
Dad.
That's Zach.
Yeah, there you go.
Zach's in his room. So yeah, but I mean, it's also like crazy that my grandparents just were able to raise so many kids, man. And then again, like my dad said that he was fair and even with all of them.
Yeah.
There wasn't a favorite. Everyone got the same attention, the same dedication, the same type of love. And so I thought that was pretty cool. This next clip, let's play it. I want to get your take. Yeah, let's play it. And then I want to talk about it after. There's something about this, like really, this is probably the thing that honestly stuck out to me the most out of this whole talk. So cool. Go ahead and play it.
It was a challenge.
I know it was.
Cuando ustedes empezaron a salir, que andaban por ahí de volados.
Yeah.
Yo le pedí mucho a Dios su ayuda, su gracia, para saber cómo, aunque no, yo no tuve esa, ¿cómo puedo decir? Esa comunión que tienen ustedes con sus hijos. Yo soy medio desabrido, diciendo por allí. No hablo mucho o no me siento con ustedes. Yo creo que esta es la primera vez que me siento a platicar con ustedes desde que sabe cuándo.
It's true. Yeah.
So, este es un como dice, un step para, con la ayuda de Dios, a ver si mejoro en eso.
Yeah, that's true. Okay, so here's what stuck out to me about that. I don't know if I expected Dad to be that honest. And what I mean by that is that my dad is very protective of family.
Yeah.
My dad will, and I mean, my dad doesn't share a whole lot, but a lot of it he doesn't share on purpose out of protecting the family. My dad's not really one to go around and share a lot of things about himself or about us. Like, there were a lot of things that happened in our family that people don't know about because my dad wasn't the type of person that go around and like tell people.
Yeah.
On the flip side of that, my dad's not the type of person to kind of put himself out there like that either. He's not the type of person that will be anything that will make him seem bad, look bad. He won't, you know, and him like saying, number one, again, he said that he wished that he would be more involved, right? When we asked him what was the one thing that you could change. But in here, he talks about that he wished that we would have more communion or being together or having talking together, spending time getting to know each other. And the word that he uses in Spanish translates to a different word in English. So it was kind of a tricky thing to translate because what he said in Spanish was like, wait, that doesn't make any sense. But I had to really kind of take it into context. But basically what he was saying is like, I'm reserved. I'm a reserved person. And then he's like, you know, and then he goes on to say, I think this is the first time that we've sat and talked in who knows how long. I didn't expect him to say that because that kind of makes him look bad. I mean, it makes us look bad too.
Yeah, I mean,
but I mean, it also makes him look bad.
Yeah,
you know. And when he said that, I didn't really have it. I wasn't really thinking about it in the conversation. But when I watched it back after, I'm like, whoa, wow, my dad, that was honest. That was super honest.
Yeah,
and in a way that he knew this could make you guys look bad and make me look bad. But there's that probably it's a combination. It was that, and then what he said right after that. He's like, and then he pointed at, and it was me and him, talking, but obviously he referred to you too. But because he was looking at me, and he said, I don't have the type of relationship that you guys have with your kids. right? And I'll be honest, like one of the things that I struggle with is being present in conversations with my kids. And I ended up going home and telling Ruthie, I'm like, it's funny that not funny, but my dad like thinks that my relationship with my kids is like all good when sometimes I struggle with having conversations with my kids. Yeah. And so it was kind of a two-part thing that really blew me away, where it's like my dad was honest, and then here he is like, probably feeling bad, like, my relationship with you guys is not like the way you guys have with your kids, where you guys are probably just having a grand old time and able to talk because there's no language thing or whatever. And it's like in my mind, I'm like, oh, well, that's not the case though. Like I do struggle with having present conversations with my kid, like beyond just small talk, which was something my dad can do. But yeah, that's why I wanted to get in that clip, because I thought that my dad was being super honest, and I don't know if I expected him to be that honest.
Yeah, I mean, I think this was the really nice thing, is that I feel like you get a really good insight to a real conversation. Like, I think while it may have started as like, oh yeah, we're on a podcast and he kind of has to speak into a microphone, I think towards the middle and towards the end, he forgot all about that. Yeah. And we were just having an honest, very real conversation between him and his kids. And I think, part of that, is on us, right? Like, there have been parts of me where it's like, yes, there's a language barrier, but I know enough Spanish to understand him. Yeah, he knows enough English to translate something into. And so, even to the point, where it's like, when I do get a chance to like have those sit down conversations with them, trying to be more intentional about having them, because, we can now. And, I think if I could go back as well in time, just the same way he said he would want to spend more time with us, I would want to be more intentional about spending time with him too. Yeah. It works both ways. And I think while we feel that, we need to use that as fathers, as parents. Like, okay. And I think this is why we have such a radical shift in priorities for us to have relationship with our kids. So here's a really funny story. So, you have my dad, very quiet, very reserved, didn't have a lot of conversations. When I met my wife, Jana, I met her dad, Jim, who is 180 degrees, completely different. Yeah. And I remember, and this is really telling, I remember one of the first lunches he came and invited us over. We went to Pioneer Cafe just down the road, and we got some burgers. And he's like, "So tell me about you. Just let me hear about this and all that." Yeah. And he's active listening. He's asking all these pointed questions. And like midway in the conversation, in my head, I'm like, "So what's this guy's deal? What is he like? What is he trying to get at? Like, is he trying to intimidate me? Yeah. Like, why is he asking so many questions?" And it wasn't until a couple months in that I realized, like, no, this is like who he is. He is very intentional in his conversations. He's very encouraging. He is like a Barnabas, like that is his heart. That is who he is. And so to juggle with this like thing of like, is this like what dads are supposed to be, kind of thing. And it really made me question like, gosh, did I not have a good relationship with my dad? Yeah. Like, do I know that my dad loves me? And I would wrestle with that for a really long time until a couple of months ago, I took my son James, and I went with both Jim and my dad to Train Town in Sonoma. Yeah. And he had an absolute blast because it's Train Town. I mean, if you don't know what Train Town is, it's a town of trains and it's a toddler. So immediately best time ever. Yeah. But to watch the interactions that he would have with dad and with grandpa, Jim, and then watch how they both, obviously had different styles of like love, but it was so evident. Yeah. And I was like, okay, that's what it is. Like, yes, my dad loves me.
Yeah.
Like he shows it a different way. And while I wish we could talk more, and that's something we could fix, but like his love never changed in that. And so for me, it was a really sobering, like, yeah, you know what? I have a really great dad, and you know what? He loves me. And so really cool moment.
For me, like, yeah, it was really cool. I remember you posting a picture and seeing James. I think it was James holding both of their hands.
Yeah.
Dude, what an awesome picture, dude.
What an awesome day.
But like for me, like I don't think I've ever, like I've always known that Dad is one of a kind as far as like a man that's persuaded in his faith, a man that will not be moved and not be convinced otherwise. Like when he has his mind made up on something, you're not gonna change his mind. Him and I have had many talks about different things that I'm just like, Dad, you're not understanding. You are not correct on this. And he's looking at me going, no, well, that's what I think. And I believe it. And it's like, dang it. You know, like seriously, like my dad will not be moved on anything.
Reminds me of somebody.
Is it who? Is it me?
Yeah.
Well, maybe that's why I was so frustrated,
that's
dude.
why.
I'm like, why are you like me, but just older? My gosh, is this who I'm gonna be? Oh my gosh, that's who I'm gonna be. Sorry, guys. Sorry. That could be I could be worse things. So I'm okay with that. But I think for me, the thing I struggle with was just that affirmation. Mm-hmm. I wish Dad would have been more affirming. I think earlier on when I was in my teenage years, like I really, and like kind of approaching coming out of high school, I was really looking for that, and I would look for it in other older guys that were like, like older brothers type, or like just other men, spiritual fathers, right? Like, and I wish Dad would have gave me that more because I was looking for that. I needed that, and I think. It really kind of the reason I didn't get that from home, so that's the reason why I was going out looking for it in other places. But I mean, I've always known that Dad he's a unique. Actually, one of the men that I've always looked up to is Theo Pete. I don't know. To me, as I grow older and Theo Pete grows older, he's still like the coolest guy ever. Like seriously, the Theo Pete is just cool. Like I always look up to him in every way. Like I'm like, that's how I want to look when I'm that age. That's how I want to dress. That's how I want to be. That's how like I want how I want people to respect me and look at me. And so I would always go to him for some things. And every single time, dude, in almost a scolding way, like almost in a way of like, you shouldn't be talking to me about this. He would tell me, go talk to your dad. Go talk to your dad. Go talk to your dad. And I'm just
that was such an Uncle Pete way. Yeah, you just said that too. I was just like, oh.
I'm a big combination of Theo Pete and Dad. But, and in my mind, I'm like, I mean, okay, but like, I don't know how to, and this is on me too, right? Like, I don't know how to talk to him about this. Not that I'm scared. I just don't know how to, I don't know.
Yeah.
Because you'd go to Dad and you bring something to him and he'd just say, well, pray about it. It's like, that's not the answer that
Thanks,
I want.
Dad.
Yeah, that's great. That's something new, right? But I mean, that's how my dad handled every conversation. So, yeah, man. I Dad's honesty was like, it really blew me away. And again, I just didn't expect him to be that honest because I know that he's very protective of family and us, So,
yeah.
Okay. Next clip, and I thought this was a super powerful one, is the one you asked him about what life is like after his parents are gone. He didn't really, other than saying that he missed them, I don't feel like he really answered that question. But what we got out of it was a story between one of the last conversations he had with his dad that I thought was super powerful. So,
roll the clip.
En otras palabras, ya estaba cansado, ya no quería seguir. Y me recuerdo que él con lágrimas en sus ojos nos dijo, siento mucho que no tengo que dejarles.
Yeah.
Like heritage.
Right. Something, yeah.
Y Y me recuerdo que yo le dije, papá, con lo que usted nos enseñó o nos dijo como ser hombres de respeto, respetar a los demás, esa herencia vale más que cualquier otra cosa. Y seguro cuando él partió, murió parte de nosotros, porque él era un hombre muy, no puedo decir rudo, nomás quería que salieran las cosas como él quería.
Right. So we didn't have a lot of interactions with our grandpa.
No.
My dad's dad. We went. I remember myself going there 2 times. The first time, don't remember much. Second time, I remember some things. I don't remember being around him very much when we were there, to be honest with you. No. I mean, we were like 12 when we went, so we were just out there running around. And then he came to the U.S. Right. I don't remember for how long. It wasn't very, like maybe a month, maybe 2.
Yeah.
Maybe longer. I honestly don't remember that. But I don't remember ever really like sitting and having conversations with him. So whatever I know about Grandpa is what Dad shares.
Yeah.
And so, and again, when we started looking at these clips, Dad talked about like kind of his relationship with his parents and how they just kind of handled business and, but I thought that like, so Grandpa had cancer. He was getting treatment here. And I guess this is a conversation they had on the way to one of his appointments. And I mean, I could picture Grandpa crying. I could not picture my dad crying. I don't know if I've ever seen my dad cry. Have you?
Yes.
When?
It was after he found out his mom had passed away.
I see. I don't remember.
Yeah.
I'm jealous. Not that I want to,
It was a surreal moment for sure.
Yeah. I mean, dude, I don't.
Yeah.
I don't ever remember Dad crying.
It's like Dad in shorts. Like you've never seen it. I mean, I've still have never seen it.
I've never seen it either.
Yeah, I don't think I will.
So I mean, dude, like, yes, Dad in shorts. Yeah. But yeah, so like to hear this like story that he shares about one of the later conversations he had with his dad was powerful, man. Like for him to look at his dad and say like, look, yeah, there is no heritage, right? There isn't none. It's whatever house they have in Mexico. That's probably about it. But for my dad to like tell him like, hey, like these things that you instilled in us, like this is the stuff that matters. And you should be at peace knowing that you gave us like the most important thing, which was raising us to treat others with respect and being men of honor, men of valor, right? Men who have standards and hold to those standards. Because honestly, dude, like our uncles, they all are. Yeah. They all men that work hard, honest living. Sure, they're not all believers, but they all go about their business and they handle it as men. And that's something they got from Grandpa. So I really wanted to look at that clip because it's like, man, like I can imagine, having your dad crying and then you having to put him at ease knowing like it's okay. Like that stuff doesn't matter. This thing that you did give us though, that is what matters most.
Well, and I think of just the vulnerability of his dad.
Yeah.
To admit, to say, I didn't leave you much.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like that, hearing that, just, it breaks your heart as a dad.
Yeah.
Because that's all we want to do for our kids.
Right.
Like I didn't realize it until I had kids, but it's like, I want to afford my child everything that I can.
Right.
And so to hear that from, this man, it's, I mean, we didn't talk to him. I mean, as intimidating as our dad may be, his dad was even more intimidating. Never spoke. And actually, when I digitized all that family, there's a video of them staying at the house over at 132 Verde Circle, and so you get to see them like And it was one of those things where it's like, oh yeah,
seeing dad and grandpa together.
Yeah, seeing dad and grandpa again, and grandpa and grandma together. It's like, whoa, okay.
You got to bring some of those for Thanksgiving.
Mom's like, I already have a whole another box for you. So.
Oh, I was gonna say, bring some like finished ones so we can watch them again.
Oh, dude, they're all. It's all there. It's all on Mom's drive.
Oh, okay,
Mom has them all.
We're gonna watch them there.
Yeah.
We can leave this in the podcast. I don't care. You can know what we do on Thanksgiving. It's fine.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I mean, I thought it was a really cool story that my dad shared. Again, another one that I never really heard or asked. And I can imagine, when I think about like why doesn't my dad ever cry? And it was funny because I cried in last episode, and then he almost made fun of me and said men don't cry. Like that's dad's way of like being lighthearted. But but I'm like, man, I'm telling you, I don't think I ever remember seeing my dad cry. Like in all the worship services we've ever been to where the Spirit is moving. Like I remember like a couple times like looking to see if and my dad's just there like just praying like, but no tears. And I'm like, dude, how do you do it? I don't know how you do it.
He's a man of strong resolve.
Seriously. All right. Last clip. I always wondered, our dad is a shy man, right? So like, even when it came to coming home and kissing Mom, it wasn't something he ever like showed off in front of us, or like, he would quietly like just, give her a kiss and like going about his business. So this next clip is kind of funny because you kind of see where that came from, and that's from his parents. Right. So I basically asked him the question, like, what was his parents' relationship like growing up? So roll the clip.
Yo no vi a menos que me acuerde, no vi el afecto que ellos sentían.
So then was it hard for you to like be affectionate with Mom and like be romantic and thoughtful when you guys were dating and you guys got married, or no?
Well, cuando estábamos dating, sí, afecto, pero ya luego casados, duró un tiempecito de que quería seguir el mismo paso de mis viejos, que nomás le daba un beso a mi esposa cuando no había nadie, no me escondía a ver que no me viera nadie.
Yeah. So I've seen Dad do that, where he'll like kiss Mom and almost like hiding,
right?
But it comes from his parents.
Yeah,
I mean, and he talked about like his parents. They just kind of go about their own business, go work, home, whatever, handle it, but they never really like showed affection to each other around the kids. And not to say that Mom and Dad are like the most affectionate people, but to see like the type of man that is today, like how affectionate he is towards Mom, to where he comes from, is kind of like, dude, he came way out of his comfort zone to do. Yeah. Now, my dad isn't the most romantic, but coming from where he comes from, it's like, dude, like he's
PDA much.
I mean, and again, I mean, it's like, and I remember sharing with him, like, we pick up what our parents do. So like coming home and giving your wife a kiss when you get home from work was just something that was in my mind. Like, this is what we do, because I saw my parents do it, that may not be for everybody. Maybe you didn't see your parents do that. So that's something that's done all the time. But I was always just curious to know, like how was Grandma and Grandpa's relationship? I know how Nana and Papa's relationship was,
right,
where Papa was, woman come give me a kiss, like he didn't care who was watching. Like he wasn't like overdoing it or anything, right, but he always expressed his affection for Nana in public. Didn't matter who was there, right? And so, but I always wondered, like Grandma and Grandpa, my dad's parents, like how they were. And it's what I thought, which was very limited and not a whole lot. Because I wonder at one point, not to say that they didn't love each other, of course they did, but like again, 13 kids living in Mexico at that time. They had 13 kids, so obviously they had the time to do stuff. But like right, at a certain point, it's like we got to do what we got to do because we need to survive. Like, You know what I mean? Like in a way, it's like almost all of that becomes put to the back because it's like we got to work, we got to make food, we got to make sure these kids are fed, we got to make sure that things are getting done because it's survival. So it's like a completely different, environment.
Well, it's funny rewatching it. There's Dad mentions it. He's like, they didn't show much affection. He just figured one day, like, oh look, there's a new baby here. Like never connecting the dots. Oh, I guess, yeah. That's just
What? My mom has a baby.
Oh yeah. Though I don't think it was storks in Mexico. There's probably some sort of eagle or something.
Yeah, probably eagles.
But yeah, no, it's true. It is really like interesting to see that because obviously our kids are watching everything.
Yeah,
they really are. They're watching everything that we're doing, how we interact, what we're saying to each other.
Yes,
all those things they're always on constant lookout for. And I've been called out by my son a couple of times. Hey, Dad, that wasn't very nice. And I said, oh yeah, you're right. That was not very nice. Yeah. I should apologize to Mom. Kind of thing. So, but the affection, I think more so, right? Like I know that when there's sometimes where I come and I kiss my wife and my son sees, he wants to get in there and kind of get a big group hug, and just he wants to kind of spread and feel part of that, emotion and stuff. And I think that in itself, is important to them to show as well, right? That we are not only, emotionally available and but also like physically available to give them hugs, to give them embraces, to show them that love means more than just words, but also has action to it as well. But Dad definitely for sure, if I remember his parents and the very few opportunities we got to see his parents, was definitely, much more affectionate, in that standpoint. And again, I mean, for us, like looking back at it now, it was weird, but looking back at it then, I was like, no, my dad, they love each other.
I think I've always understood the importance of showing affection to my wife in front of the kids. But now that I have a daughter, it's like completely different, Like, yes, like I need to show my boys how we treat a woman, how we treat our wives, right? Yeah. How we love on our wives. But now it's like I'm showing my daughter, like, and this makes me have to be the best version of myself because now it's like, honey, this is the type of man that you want, like this. Yeah. But the thing is, like, a lot of times,
really?
Yeah, a lot of times, like, no, you don't want one, like, you know what I mean? Like, but it makes me have to be that,
right?
Where when it was just the boys, that wasn't the case, But now that I have a daughter, it's like, and as she's getting older, it's like, and she's starting to be aware, right? Like. And she'll give me little kisses. So like, it's like, oh, dang, dude, I gotta be the best. Like not only because I love my wife, but now like I'm also teaching my kids what a marriage should look like.
Have you ever asked Ruthie if she feels that way about the boys? That she feels she has to feel like the gold standard of women? No. That would be a really interesting question to.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to speak for her, but I feel that Ruthie.
Then don't.
Feel that Ruthie's she is a woman she keeps herself at high standards, like she's so aware about what she's doing, and not to say she doesn't make mistakes or anything, but just I think she's just a lot more in touch with that, like knowing the kids are watching me. I need to show the kids this because, her childhood was different than ours.
Right.
Her parents split when she was 9, 10. And I mean, her dad's been almost pretty much absent her teenage to adult life now. Yeah. He comes around sometimes, but, it's kind of a weird relationship. So, but that is a great question. I will ask her that tonight when I get home.
Whenever I think of when you said that, what immediately came to my mind was those Dusty Kid memes. Have you seen those?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah. Where he was like, yeah. It's just kind of, and then look up to the
doing
camera.
This. I love how it's the I got 5 on it beat too. And he's like, so your Dusty son doesn't think that it's her job. My job is to make sure that my sons don't become Dusty sons.
Yeah.
So, there was one other clip I had, but I didn't send it to you, and we don't have to show it, but and it came off in the podcast as very like kind of funny, but I kind of want to talk about it a little bit, and that's where are we at with time, by the way?
55 minutes.
Okay, we're gonna touch this real quick, and that is the Giants. And I asked my dad if he was gonna root for the Giants. He said no, and he has his reasons, and it's fine, But one of the reasons that I was telling Ruth this, one of the reasons I feel so like irked by that was because that was one of the few things that me and my dad connected and could talk about at any time.
Yeah.
That was what was used to like bond us, I fell in love with baseball because he loved baseball. And I'd watch with him, he'd teach me the game, but then, a few years ago, he's like, "Oh, I'm not a fan anymore of the Giants, Major League Baseball. Period. He's like,
yeah.
I'm just not going to watch anymore. I don't want to support the product." And I'm just like, "Okay, I get what you're saying, but like, you do understand that like, a lot of my childhood memories was us sitting and watching these games together,
right?
And it is just a game, but that time matters to me, because it's one of the few things that we could relate with and talk about and understand each other and learn about the game and each other too. Like I knew the type of player my dad loved, the players he didn't like. I knew the type of what we would almost sit there and we would each manage the game. Like if we were the manager of the team, we'd each, and move by move, we would say, "Oh, that's a bad move." Might be like, "What would you do?" Tell him what I did. And my dad would say, "Well, I would do this." "No, Dad, you can't do that because of this and that." And like that's the way we would watch the games. Like, so, and we'd always connect on that, and we sit there and watch 3-hour baseball game together. So part of the reason why I asked the question, because I'm like, dude, come on, just get back to the game and watch it, and it is kind of funny. Like, again, my dad didn't stop watching because he's trying to make me feel bad. He has his own thing about it. But
well, welcome to my world, because I never had that with Dad.
No,
so I had to find other conversation starters to have with that.
But that was like the one thing I'm like, oh, dude. So,
but I will say this. I understand that for sure. When I started I'm now using Spanish as that gap and trying to be more intentional about speaking in Spanish with him. Because I need to be better at Spanish.
Yeah.
Like I'm always trying to get better at Spanish and always trying to. And I think now that I'm getting older, I want to be more in touch with that root aspect, that ancestral aspect. But then part of it for me too is that like I know that if I say something wrong, he'll call me on it, but at least I'll learn something new. I'll learn of a new word or that kind of thing. And I just feel like our conversations feel a little bit more comfortable in Spanish than they do in English. So
I think I've seen you make that step. I'm like, whoa, okay. And I think it's great. I think it does make him feel like he wants to talk to me, I'll say this, after doing this podcast episode, I don't think I've ever been, number one, proud of my dad for doing it.
Yeah, that's a big step.
But honestly, number two, I don't think I've ever been more prouder of being Mexican.
Big words.
I mean, obviously for us, like we were born here in the States, so whatever we know about Mexican culture, we learned through our parents, and we learned through church, and we learned through living here where we grew up. So, but just kind of hearing my dad's story and knowing that his story is almost the exact same story for all the other men and women who had to cross the border and started life here and have family here now. You know what I mean? Like, it's the same story. They all came for their own reasons. The reasons may be different, but they all got here, and the journey to get here and do what they did, which is learn a new language and establish themselves and create a family and raise kids in a country that they didn't grow up in. Like, dude,
the immigrant story is it's a real one, man, for sure.
So yeah, that's all I'm gonna say is that I don't think I've ever been more proud of being Mexican, and it's Mexican American.
And I think if you take anything from the episode, have those conversations with your dad.
Yeah, never too late to start.
Oh man, it's conversations like that. I would always tell myself, I'm going to have those conversations with Papa. I'm going to have those conversations with Papa. I'm going to have those conversations with Papa. Never happened.
Yeah.
Never happened until it was too late, where it was like he wasn't even able to really talk back. And those are those times that you wish you had back, and whether you have a really great relationship with your dad, or or you have a very complicated relationship with your dad, I think we learn a lot of each other from this type of communication. SNL actually had a skit. It's kind of funny. I was thinking about that too, where the whole pitch is like, are you having trouble talking with your dad? Here's a podcast kit, and you have podcasts. And then anytime it's funny, I'll have to send it to you. It's really funny. He says like, is it reached like an awkward break where there's a question and doesn't answer? Just hit the ad break button and then they put in an ad, like, oh yeah, let's Audible sponsor this one. And it's really funny. But
well, I mean, it was one of the best conversations I had with him, because he was able to share a lot that he'd never really shared before. Yeah. So we've talked about other things and stuff. We've had conversations, just that one, he was able to get deep. He was able to be honest still while being himself, being caring and funny and wanting me to be comfortable. So like, I thought it was really great. But yeah, if you are having trouble talking with your dad, you should do a podcast. It was great. It was a good experiment, and I feel like it was a big success.
That's the only reason you've done this podcast. This is actually the last episode now.
That was the last episode. I'm going to end it on a high note with my dad.
Yeah. Thanks for making me record this whole thing.
Big thanks to Eli for coming back in the Chop Shop. It was great to have him in there and us think about some of these questions that we asked our dad, which makes me lead to ask you this question. If you could ask your dad anything, what would it be? Let me know in the comments. I'd love to see your questions. And I hope that those questions don't just stay in the comments. I hope that the next time you see your dad, you can share it with him. Whether that's your dad, your grandfather, an uncle, or just a father figure in your life. I think it's important as dads, as men, to have these type of conversations. So make sure you do that. That's all I have for you guys on this episode. Follow us on YouTube, subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell so you get notified for every new episode that we come out with. Make sure you follow me on Instagram at Benny's Chop Shop Pod. And then you can also find us on podcast, on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, so you can subscribe there and get all the latest episodes. Love you guys. Thank you for watching. Until next time, peace out.